What's up guys, Nick True here, and today I'm with my wife Hannah, and we're going to be talking about the 5 things you can do to help get you and your spouse on the same page with money.
The first few years of our marriage were really tough with money. We weren't on completely opposite ends of the spectrum, but we definitely had some major disagreements. We finally got to where we were working together to use our money as a tool to help us achieve our goals, and it's been a real game changer.
So if you're struggling to get on the same page with money with you and your spouse, then stick around and we're going to show you the things that have worked for us. The first thing you have to do is to figure out your why together. Now, you've heard me talk about this a ton in other videos, but it's even more important when it comes to money and relationships. And it's easily the most important thing in this video. It's the thing you have to get right.
During our first year of marriage, we never talked about our why. Instead, we wasted time arguing over minor purchases, like a $20 necklace on our honeymoon, or what kind of toilet paper we were going to buy. No matter what the purchase was, money pried us apart.
And see, the problem we faced in that first year marriage, or at least one of them, was pretty limited income. So everything felt like a big expense at the time. But the even bigger problem, other than limited income, was the fact that we never talked about how money can be used as a tool to reach our longer term goals that we had together. See, before you sit down to talk about budgeting and how much you guys are spending, you have to first sit down and talk about your dreams and your wants and what you want the future to look like. And that's where I went wrong. I tried hard to get us on a budget in that first year, but it never worked because we never sat down and talked about why we needed to budget in the first place.
The key is that you have to have empathy. You have to figure out what makes your spouse care about money. Nick has always loved budgeting and investing and tracking it all in Excel, whereas I like the spending part of money. But Nick figured out pretty quickly how to make me care about money. Pets. At the time, we had one cat, the one, the only Walter Cronkite, but I was dying to get a dog. Around our second year of marriage, Nick figured out that he could use this want to bring us together with money. So we sat down and discussed in detail how much it would cost for us to have a dog. And I mean in detail. Nick helped me realize just how expensive that goal was. Not in a way that crushed my dreams, just in a way that gave us a goal to work towards together. So we started a savings account for our future dog, and we would put a little bit in there every month. And sometimes I'd even take some of my spending money for the month and put it in there, which TJ Maxx knows is a huge deal for me.
See, for a little while in our marriage, it felt like we were pulling at opposite ends of a rope. We were pulling against each other. I wanted certain things, Hannah wanted other things, and both of our wants were getting in each other's way. Something had to change. In the book Capital Gains, Chip Gaines talks about how life is kind of like a game of tug-of-war, and it got a lot easier when him and Joanna started pulling on the same side of the rope rather than pulling against each other.
That's exactly the transition that Nick and I experienced when we started working together to get a dog. Nick realized that I was motivated to save money if we were going to work towards getting pets, and I realized that Nick was happy to spend on pets as long as we were keeping to our budget and reaching our long-term financial goals.
We realized that the most important thing to achieving anything in your marriage is to think about what your spouse wants, and then think about what you want, and then figure out a way to mesh those things together and achieve what both of you guys want.
This concept extends far beyond working together to get a new pet. We very quickly moved on to bigger whys, like saving up to buy our Airstream and eventually quitting our normal jobs to work remotely as freelancers.
And of course, it doesn't stop there. We're always talking about the bigger things in life that we feel called to do, and then creating a budget and a plan to actually make those things happen. These days, we're saving up money for a real estate investment, a down payment on a house, and setting aside money to adopt kids in the future. And remember, this is hands down the most important tip. If you have a reluctant spouse who doesn't want to get on a budget with you, don't even start talking about money. Simply start by talking about your dreams and what you want your future to look like together. Then you can talk about how money can be used to help you get there.
Once you've got your why, you're ready for tip number 2, which is to get rid of labels. It's the norm to label yourself as either a spender or a saver, but I think we're all a mix of both. I think we'd all be lying if we said that there's nothing that we like to spend on.
And saving is the same way. Sure, you may have a natural tendency towards one way or the other, but I don't think it's actually helpful to label each other. In fact, it feels like you're back to working against each other instead of pulling on the same side of the rope.
In addition to that, labels make you feel like you don't have control over your own habits. It's what Carol Dweck boils down to the fixed versus growth mindset. In a fixed mindset, you believe that you have fixed traits and abilities with limited control over your accomplishments or improvement. You're either a winner or a loser, a spender or a saver. But in a growth mindset, you're in control. Want to get better with money? Well, then it's well within your control to learn about finance and improve your spending habits so that you can reach your future goals.
Labeling yourself as a spender or a saver plays into that fixed mindset. It tricks yourself into thinking that your success with money is predetermined. I'm sure there's people who would be happy to debate me all day long about mindset and these labels, but it comes down to this. it's not actually helpful. It's not beneficial to use these labels in your relationship.
If you get to the end of the month and cringe at how much you've been spending, don't just shrug your shoulders and label yourself as a spender. Instead, take responsibility for your actions and your choices, and then make the decision to change them moving forward so that you can get the results you want in the future.
All right, tip number 3 is to find a tool to keep you both on the same page. So I used to use Quicken back before we got married, and once we did get married and combined everything, it just felt natural to keep on using Quicken since I was already doing it. But the Quicken app kind of sucked at the time, and so the budget was only on my computer. So you can probably already see the problem here. I was looking at the budget all the time, and then when Hannah would go out and spend money on something, I would be like, hey, why are we spending money on that thing? But see, she didn't even have access to it, so it was kind of meaningless to her.
This came to a real head in mid-2016 when I spent 10 weeks away for 2 back-to-back internships while Nick was still in Chattanooga. After a few fights over the phone, we quickly decided this system was not working and we needed to find something else.
So I downloaded just about every single personal finance app I could find. I looked at all the budgeting tools out there, and ultimately we landed on YNAB. And this is still what we use today. This system just makes sense to the both of us, and more importantly than that, the phone app was really, really good. And so we both had access to the budget all the time on our phones 24/7.
If I'm at TJ Maxx and find a French Bulldog mug that has my name written all over it, I can instantly pull up the budget and look and see if I have any spending money left. It gives me the freedom to make a wise purchasing decision without calling Nick and asking permission to buy something, and it grants him the same freedom.
It's also been really helpful for categories that we're both using all the time, like groceries. If one of us goes out earlier in the week to buy some groceries and then the other one goes out later on, it's really easy to just look on our phones and know exactly how much money we have left in the groceries category for this month. Now, you don't have to use YNAB. You could use any number of budgeting tools or apps out there. Heck, you could use pencil and paper, an Excel spreadsheet, or the cash envelope system. I really don't care what you use. You just need to find some sort of system or tool that will work for the both of you. That's the important part, which brings us to number 4, which is to celebrate milestones along the way.
I come from a family of diehard Alabama fans, and if you know anything about college football, you've probably heard the name Bear Bryant. Well, years ago, my dad printed a letter that the Bears sent to football recruits, and he highlighted this quote: "There are no easy ways, but there are ways to enjoy the journey, and we must find them." This quote applies to football, marriage, personal finance, and life in general. There are absolutely no easy ways, but there are still ways to enjoy the journey.
If you're setting really big goals, like trying to kill $30,000 worth of debt or save $20,000 for a down payment on a house, that goal is going to take you a really long time to get there. And it's going to be hard because you're going to have to sacrifice a lot along the way. So in order to keep yourself going, in order to stay motivated between the both of you, you need to celebrate smaller milestones along the way.
If you were able to save an extra $300 this month because you spent less on groceries and your fun spending, then celebrate and treat you and your spouse to a coffee date. Take time to sit down and talk about what made this month so great and how you can make next month even better.
As an example, Hannah and I have some exercise goals that we're trying to hit this year. And to reward ourselves, if we complete 80% of our workouts from now through March, we're going to reward ourselves with some Jocko t-shirts and some American flag running shorts. We're currently prepping for a Rocky run in PA. Now, these are small items in the grand scheme of things and really won't impact our budget much, but we really want them, and we're not going to allow ourselves to get them unless we maintain our discipline and keep working towards our goals.
All right, so now we're on to tip number 5, which is to talk regularly. Maybe you and your spouse naturally talk all the time, or maybe life is really hectic for you guys and it's hard to get past the "how was your day" small talk. Either way, it's really important to schedule a time that you can sit down and really focus on talking about your budget one-on-one.
Hannah and I naturally spend a lot of time together and already talk about our dreams and our goals naturally. And so that inevitably leads to the conversation of, hey, how's the budget? Where are we at on groceries? Where are we at on savings? But sometimes life gets in the way and we don't always have time to catch up. And we don't even have kids yet. So I can't imagine how hard it is if you've got a house full.
Ideally, Nick and I like to sit down and have a focused conversation about our finances every other week. It doesn't have to be super long. It's just important to have a scheduled time where you sit down and figure out where you're at with your goals and your budget. Sometimes we even treat ourselves to Waffle House or dessert out to make budget talks that much more fun. Sometimes we need a little extra encouragement to tackle those financial discussions.
Now, the point here is really summed up best in a quote by management consultant Peter Drucker. He said, "What gets measured gets improved." Now, obviously, I don't want you to have meetings just for the sake of meetings. Our jobs and corporations already do that to us enough. But if the company you worked for never met about anything and never measured anything, do you really think think that that company would stay in business much longer? I don't think so. And it's the same way with money in your marriage. You need to be regularly measuring things through the budget and then regularly meeting about them to make sure that the budget is getting improved on and you're constantly tweaking it and working on it so that you can hit those goals.
All right, guys, we hope you liked this video and found it helpful. We'd love for you to leave a comment below and let us know which tip helped you the most. And we know how hard it can be to work with your spouse on money. So if you have any tips of your own, we'd love to hear those too.
As always, please be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. And remember, we can teach you how to get on the same page as your spouse with money, but we can't make you do it. The choice is yours. We'll see y'all next time.